Hello once more. It is Monday, the 3rd of October, but you'll probably be listening to this on Tuesday, the 4th of October. This is This Week in WordPress, episode number, good grief, 224. The numbers only go up, they never go down.
It's good.
Yeah, it is good. Well, unless it's your age, of course, and then it's kind of slightly depressing when the numbers get to the quantity that I now have. I am joined, we're going to talk about WordPress, but I'm joined by three fabulous guests. We've always got some lovely guests on. This time they're all from North America. And let's just go round clockwise. So if I'm here, the first one on my right, as I'm looking at it, but I think on the left over that way, is Birgit Pauli-Haack from Gutenberg Times. How are you doing, Birgit?
I'm doing well. So good to be here. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me again.
You are so welcome. I'd mentioned that Birgit is the publisher of the Gutenberg Times. She is also the co-host of the Gutenberg Changelog podcast and a WordPress developer advocate at Automatic and living in, if I'm not mistaken, are you Florida? Have I got that right?
Yes, in Sarasota, Florida.
And how was it over the last week? What with the
Well,
hurricane?
it was a little disruptive.
Yeah.
2 days gone because of hurricane. Actually, 3.5 days because we had to put the shutters up on our house so we stay safe in our house and we ride it out. But we were lucky. We didn't not a whole lot of people weren't further south. Hurricane Ian made landfall, and the surge really devastated some of the coastlines and coastal towns, and that's really heartbreaking to see what damage had been done.
Yeah, well, I'm very glad that you and your household are very safe, and thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. We're also joined by Kathy Zant. Hello.
Hello, good to see you again.
Yeah, very nice. Thanks for having you with us. Kathy's one of our super regular co-hosts. So thank you for all of your commitment to the show. I really appreciate it. She is the director of marketing for Cadence and iThemes at Stellar WP. And stay with us because she's got a bit of training coming up, which we'll be telling you about a little bit later on, right towards the end. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Kathy. You're not in Florida, right?
Not in Florida, in Texas, and
okay.
The weather here is finally beautiful. So blessed.
I have no words. We don't do beautiful weather in the UK. We do muggy and depressing most of the time. And finally, down there's Bob Dunn, Bob WP. I don't know which one to say. How are you, Bob?
Hey, I'm doing good, Nathan.
Bob is currently living in America, but who knows how long that's going to last. Bob's got this online saga, which you're going to find out a bit later, because he's decided to move completely to it is kind of more or less the other side of the planet, right? It's like 10 hours time zones away or something.
Yeah, it seems like that. It's about it's about 8-hour difference in many miles.
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll find out a little bit more about that later. Anyway, it's absolutely bonkers o'clock for Bob, so apologies for dragging him out of his bed. Bob, if you didn't know, is a podcaster. He's a publisher and connector at dothewoo.io. Go and Google Do The Woo. If you're into WooCommerce and WordPress, then Bob is your authority. Audio and otherwise fabulous show. We're going to talk about WordPress news. Just a couple of quick things. Thank you for anybody who's decided to join us in the comments. I really appreciate it. We have a few little caveats about that. And the first one is if you're joining us on Facebook, you can't automatically display your name and avatar. You have to go through this little step. And you should find it at the top of the post, but you've got to click on the link chat.restream.io/FB. That's chat.restream.io/FB. And if you do that, it will give you the option to confirm that you allow Facebook to share your stuff with us. During the course of this week, the platform that was in Restream had multiple problems connecting to all of the different sources. So that might have been YouTube, it might have been Facebook. It all seemed to go a bit chaotic this week. So if you're making comments and it's pretty clear that nobody's replying to them or giving you any, pats on the back or whatever it might be, I do apologize. It may be that they're not coming through to the platform, and for that I'm sorry. if you fancy sharing this, feel free to do that. Stop it right now, but make sure to come back. We're at wpbuilds.com/live. And if you've got a YouTube account, you can make comments over there. So we've got a few people saying something. This person who is a Facebook user, so it seems to be working over there, but your results may vary. Good morning from Chicago. Now, who would that be? I don't know, but thank you for making the effort. Thanks very much indeed. Hiya, says Rob Cairns, and also
Hey, Rob.
Sol from Connecticut. Hi, Peter.
Hey,
Thank you
Peter.
very much. And I'm pretty much sure that I saw Maya Car's comment pop in over on Facebook. That doesn't appear to have come through, nor indeed does Courtney Robertson. So you guys appear to be on on YouTube. So maybe the YouTube comments are not coming through to us, and if that's the case, or some of them are coming through and some of them are not, I do apologise. I don't know. I have no idea why that might be. Oh, and then as soon as I say that, Maya pops in and says, "Yeah, I'm here." Okay, so ignore everything I just said. You can more or less say that for the whole of my life. That's what my mother always tells me. Let's get on and talk about WordPressy stuff. This is our website, wpbuilds.com. There it is. You can see that we are sponsored by the mighty GoDaddy. We'll be talking about an event that they've got later with Courtney Robertson. Thank you for GoDaddy for supporting us. I really, really appreciate it. If you want to subscribe to our stuff, click on the link here and then fill out forms and click enter and things like that. You can work it all out for yourself. Okay, here we go. Anne McCarthy has got a couple of pieces featured at the top of our show today. The first one was published sort of middle of last week, I believe, 26th of September. It's called Core Editor Improvement, Catalyst for Creativity and Control. And in it, if you're watching this, you'll get an impression for how much there is to say here. We are going to keep it to the merest bullet points, but it is to say that a lot is coming down the pipeline very soon, and you can see the changes that you're going to be able to make, not only by the screenshots, but in most cases, there's a tiny little sort of 10 or 15 second video which demonstrates what the changes will be. But there's going to be an awful lot of changes coming for typography block support. I'm having to scroll between all of these. Dimension and spacing block support. You can see there's a lot of places here. Color support, keep going, and layout block support, border block support. They all seem to end in support, and a whole bunch of other things. Basically, I'm just letting you know that this page exists. If you're interested in all of this kind of stuff, and I know that Birgit definitely is, it's worth checking it out. The post, as I said, was called Core Editor Improvements, Catalyst for Creativity and Control, and you can see what's going on. But I'm going to hand over to the expert, Birgit. Tell us what's coming up, Birgit.
Yeah, it's a part of the WordPress 6.1 release that's coming to WordPress in November 1st. And it's now in beta 2. Tomorrow is the release of beta 3. And these are the design tools with a block editor that users can use have been tested on the plugin and also in 6.0 and before. And now that those design tools are finalized, they're coming now to every block. I don't know if you remember after 6.0, there was this idea or the complaint that you can change fonts on paragraphs but not on heading. And that was part through all the blocks that they are not. Some blocks had dimension control, some didn't, so for spacing and padding. And now the team went through all the blocks, all the, I don't know, 40, 50, 80 blocks, and made sure that the blocks that needed have all the design tools that they need. So, and you said it, it's the typography support with font family changes, line height, letter spacing, drop caps, and all that. And then there is the dimensions for padding and margins, where you can then check you want to have left and right margins or just kind of the margins or padding for the whole block. Then there are the border controls. Not every block gets a border control, but the container blocks definitely, which are the group block and the columns block and all those. Then also, yeah, color support that has been probably added to all blocks a while ago, but now all if you need it, you can also have link color, which was the one that was missing. Border support, we talked about it. And one is also, I think, a layout control where you can say, okay, let the, I don't know if it's in the
Yeah,
post.
there it is. Yeah.
Yeah, where you can have for buttons and columns and galleries and so on, the layout support in terms of, is it stacking, is it kind of in a row, or is it in a column displayed, and does it inherit design from the theme and these kind of things. So it's quite a few. That has been a lot of work, and I think from the, I don't know, 1,000 or so PRs that come from the plugin into WordPress now, I think 400 are part of that consistency updates. I call them, that bring all the design tools to all the blocks.
Yeah, there's an absolute boatload. Birgit's just sort of scratched the surface, but if you're watching this, each of these images that you can see, so for example, I'm currently looking at the color support, blocks with color support. There's just a laundry list of more or less all the core blocks, and then kind of asterisks, if you like, caveats where it won't be supported in 6.1. But in most cases, everything is supported everywhere from now on. And essentially, the takeaway from this is when WordPress 6.1 comes along, you'll be able to make your text and blocks and background colors and borders and border radius and all of that kind of padding, margin, all of that. It will offer the kind of things that you've been maybe used to with your page builders and things, all of those settings that you've become used to. So yeah, really exciting. Tons of stuff coming down the pipeline. So go and check that out. I'll hand it over to Kathy and Bob to say about this, and if not, we'll crack on with the next bit.
I
tried to memorize all of these last night, and after 2, I was done. I was a complete failure, but I want to be prepared. This is amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot. There really is a lot there. There's far too much. I mean, in most cases, they're kind of a part of the way through it, and I don't know if you can see, but on the image here, it's sort of got this like little marks out of 10, how far they're through. So in this case, the current status is 54.76, which is a very precise measurement, I might say, of the things that need to be done are in fact done. So no doubt this image will change over time in future releases. Right, sorry, Kathy.
Yeah, no, I just think it's incredible. I mean, that's one of the things that WordPress is doing, is giving so much more control to users to be able to do so much more with WordPress. And this is just extending upon it. And we're really seeing what the promise of what Gutenberg wanted to give to WordPress users coming to the fore. And
yeah.
I'm here for it. I think it's great.
Can I ask you a question? Because I don't mean to put you in an awkward position, but obviously you are... You talk and speak publicly about Cadence a lot, that you work with them for them. And how does it, so things like Cadence and commercial rivals, they've been taking a lot of this and implementing a lot of this for quite a long time. But obviously in some cases that is free, and in other cases you have to pay for the upgrades to that. How does it feel from like the Cadence angle when the features are starting to come into core? So it makes... Yeah, how to describe it? It makes it so that the commercial offering that you've got is becoming more and more into line with what the free version's got.
Yeah, well, there's so much more that Cadence does that it... I mean, some of the stuff, even in the pro version, like of ShopKit, that extends, basically allows people to use blocks to build out WooCommerce product pages, templating, and all of the stuff with Cadence elements that allows people to do stuff with custom post types and being able to template things, or to create a block and then say, okay, I'd like this particular block to be added to the end of every blog post that's written by this author, and just all of the granular types of controls. So I don't think it's competitive. I think anything that goes into core is going to just elevate WordPress, and Cadence is here for that, because there's so much more, even in Cadence free and the upcoming edition of Cadence blocks that's coming out, that is going to take things even to the next level, being able to move blocks within row layouts and things like. We just got a preview of it last week, and so I don't want to be like spoilers or anything, but
Okay.
it's really exciting. So I don't feel like this is, I feel like this is just lifting all boats.
Nice.
Everything that like Generate Blocks is doing and all of the other block providers are doing are lifting all of WordPress, and some blocks are the cool thing about it is you can use WordPress core and get all of these cool features. You can use Cadence and get all of these features and use like a couple of blocks from Cadence. You can install Generate Blocks and use a few of their things. And it's not like you're having to commit to page builder on this page. You can take a little bit from everything. I mean, obviously you don't want to use every single block plugin, kind of, decide on where you want to be, but
yeah,
block world is so much more open, and we're really kind of, I think, at a new age of creating with WordPress, and it's super exciting.
Thank you. That was a fine answer, and sorry for
That's what I'm here for. Fine answers.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Kathy, fine answer. Zant is what she's going to be known as from now on. No, that was great. Thank you so much. A rising tide raises all boats, or something to that effect. Is the takeaway?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And who we got? Rob is in agreement. He says, "I agree. Cadence Pro is well worth the money." Thank you, Rob. Okay, let's move on. We're going to stay with Anne McCarthy, but this time we're going to be talking about something that she's doing in the near future. She has, I think she's orchestrated them all. I could be wrong about that, but we're on the call for testing, number 17. So she's been behind a program of encouraging people to get out there and test the latest and greatest, the new features and so on. And the way that she's been doing that is she's been creating kind of like a fake website, if you like, a themed website. And then from there, she wants people to go in and have a play and have an explore and give her feedback about what went wrong, what went well, what was easy. And as always, she's laid out a post here. It's on make.wordpress.org. It's entitled FSE Program Call for Testing number 17 or #17, guiding the Gutenberg Gallery. And I'm just letting you know that this exists, because if you're into testing WordPress and you want to help her out and give some more feedback, it's a very user-friendly way of doing it. You just follow the instructions, basically, which she's got. Here we are on the screen. You just follow on, do exactly as you are instructed, and hopefully everything will work as planned. And if not, then give some feedback. They're using InstaWP, which is a brilliant service. I don't know if you've come across this before, but you basically click a button and it spins up a website, and it sounds like they've been gifted InstaWP by the team over there. So that's quite a nice way of doing it. You won't even need to kind of install anything. You just click a button and your site is ready in literally 5 seconds. That was my experience anyway. Anything to add to that, or shall I just move on, you guys?
Well, if you want to know what's coming to WordPress 6.1 and want to get a handle on it, dive into call for testing, because it goes through most of all the new features, because that's part of the testing part. That's one thing. And if you want to contribute to WordPress, that's an instant gratification kind of thing, because your feedback is really helping making everything better, and also kind of get the last bugs out of WordPress 6.1 just before a week before the release candidate comes. So I'm calling on your listeners to kind of dive in, and even if you don't go through all the instructions, only half of it or something like that, it's still a great contribution to a high impact contribution to WordPress.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you, Birgit.
Especially with the full site editing being just such a game changer. I think that the more testing and the more eyes we can get on it, it's going to be great.
Yeah, I feel that as well, because it's one of the things which is difficult to get right. And it's made its way along that trajectory, isn't it? And is it perfect? No. Hopefully it will get considerably better. Yes, but we need feedback for all these different use cases. And Anne's been making it as easy as possible to follow along with literally foolproof instructions. So go and give her a hand. Bob, anything, or shall we move on?
Go ahead and move on. Yeah.
Okay.
I think they've said it all.
Yeah. Oh, one little quick comment from Michelle, who's kind of already intuited something that we're going to talk about later. We mentioned it last week. We'll mention it later, Michelle, but she says, we built the WP Motivate with Cadence, of course. I the WP Motivate site. We'll show that in about an hour's time. Alrighty, next thing is an event. This is, wanted to give a shout out to Courtney, who is usually in the comments. She was earlier. She may be struggling to make a comment, I don't know. But she's got an event which is coming up this Wednesday. It's at 8 p.m. BST. I always think that sounds rude, BST. It just sounds like a rubbish time. Let's put it that way. I guess in North America it's like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. But it's called Call for WordPress Testing. Hello, a little bit like what we just spoke about. And it says, as part of a series of test sessions during our Makers of the Web meetups, we're once again going to contribute to the WordPress project by reviewing the current progress and providing feedback. And it's all to do with 17, what you've just seen. So if you want a bit more hand-holding and you don't want to do it all by yourself, well, here you are. This is the perfect scenario to do it in the friendly hands of the GoDaddy team, Courtney in particular. But you can see she's joined by Gina Marie Innocent, George Mamadashvili, and Evan Herman. So, I guess most of them are on the GoDaddy team. But yeah, okay. So that's that. Anybody?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Courtney Robertson, who not only is on the GoDaddy team, but she's also part of, and if not a team rep on the training team. So, and she has been instrumental to make those testing calls a little bit further spread out and teach people how to be part of it. So, big shout out to Courtney for taking that on and leading people through a testing session there as well.
Yeah, thank
you.
Yeah, of course. So there we go. That is Wednesday, but the link will be in the show notes, and the link is quite long. But if you just Google Call for WordPress Testing GoDaddy, you'll probably get there. And it's 5th of October, so in a couple of days' time. Speaking of events, Bob, anything, or Kathy, anything?
I just think it's great.
I think it's obvious that from all this testing, if anybody's saying that WordPress isn't interested in feedback, I mean, I'm seeing this testing all the time. So there's no reason not to help if you're saying they're not reaching out to you. So there's a lot of options.
That's a curious point, isn't it? Because, Bob, I suspect you're in all these kind of communities. That call is made quite a lot, isn't it?
It is.
Call that people are not listening or are tone deaf or whatever it may be, and that's kind of a difficult that's a difficult bridge to cross, because if all of this stuff is there but you don't find it or don't choose to look for it, then it's difficult for the team to sort of say, well, okay, what we'll do is we'll get a tin opener and we'll open your brain and figure out what you're thinking, and then we'll put that into WordPress. Sorry, that sounded really ridiculous, but you know what I mean? Like, we're going to gaze into a crystal ball and figure it all out. So these things are here, but it takes time and it takes effort, and you have to go and do it if you want to. If you want to be able to claim that you were ignored, you have to go and shout first.
I was told by Anne once, she said, we talked a couple of years ago or a year ago, and she said, Anne McCarthy, she said, if anybody has any doubts that there's not much happening in WordPress, just, go into WordPress, make WordPress Slack channel and just sign into some of the core. And I've done it, and I absolutely don't know what they're talking about most of the time. But it also amazes me, the constant activity. It's like, whoa, if you don't think anything's going on, just sit there and zone out on that for a few minutes and you'll see it all.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, I've just coined a phrase: if you don't shout, you can't claim to have been ignored. I quite like that. Yeah. I'm going to write that down in my Zen book of poetry, which I've got next to me. Okay. Anyway, Courtney, thank you. She says the time pops up in local time. Yes. And in my case, BST. I'm going to guess that's kind of like 2 p.m. Eastern or something like that. Roughly there. Anyway, Wednesday, roughly, something like that. So shout out to the GoDaddy team. Next one is another WordPress event, and it is... Firstly, WP Tavern have got an article about it, but I think I'll just move on to the real page itself. This is woosesh.com. I love this. It's a free event, but I love the fact that they've crossed out that it would cost you $800 But no, we're going to do it. We're going to do it for free. This thing's been going forever, as far as I can tell. It is brought to you at the top, at least anyway. It says GoDaddy and WP Sessions present. I don't know who's responsible for what, but it's a virtual conference. It's on the 11th to the 13th of October. It's completely free. You've just got to surrender your email address if you wish to be informed and what have you. And it says, if you regularly work with WooCommerce in your business, there are several presentations at WooSesh for you. We have created a speaker and session lineup that is designed to help your business in the year ahead. There's a whole bunch of speakers here that you can see on the screen. I'm not going to read out all the names, but you can see them there if you're watching. I'm guessing, Bob, being the WooCommerce guy, this is something you're really into, right?
Yeah, this year actually we're partnering up, and if you, I think you should see Kathy's face in there somewhere on this.
Yay! Look there.
Yeah.
I just saw myself, and I'm like, oh my god, did I pitch a talk there? I don't remember pitching, but then I remembered Bob signed me up.
Yeah. Well, what's cool is this year they're bringing in Do the Woo is going to have at the end of each day a wrap up. Just conversation.
Nice.
So I've kind of plugged in two of our hosts for every day. I'm avoiding it, but I'm letting all my co-hosts go in there. So at the end of each day, they'll be talking with probably a speaker and maybe a sponsor, and just kind of having a nice little party. And Kathy is one. I'm not sure which day she's on, but she will be there one of those days. She's graciously offered to do it, and it's always good. It's aimed at agencies and developers. So it's really the people that are running their businesses and building with WooCommerce. And it's been around for a while. Brian Risen, who behind WP Sessions, has been doing this for quite a few years, actually. So, I definitely, if you have any touch points with WooCommerce in your business, I definitely tune into some of this.
Yeah, there you are at the end of each day. Bob Dunn, Do the Woo Day, little roundup with Kathy on the 13th, with Zach and Robbie on the 12th, and with Brad and Jonathan Wold on the 11th. So just for our audience's sake, you mentioned co-hosts on your podcast. Just tell us about how your podcast runs. So we know it's called Do the Woo. We know that you started it, but it's been going for years and years and years, and it's developed and morphed and changed. How does it work now? How does it run?
Yeah, well, it's kind of the site itself is turning more into the just the podcast as far as community support and a lot of things going behind the scene. But the podcast itself, I've been podcasting like you, Nathan, for way too many years. And there was a point where with Do the Woo, I thought, well, do people really want to listen to me day in and day out? I mean, as I added more shows, especially a couple week. So the whole impetus of Do the Woo is to elevate voices, not elevate my voice. So I thought, well, this will be cool, because I started with Brad Williams when we first started. He was a co-host, and I started thinking, well, why don't I just step behind the scenes and find some more co-hosts? So it's not the easiest thing in the world. I don't know how many of them I have now, 9, 10, 11 co-hosts. I'm going to be adding some more, but it brings in a lot more, and I don't want to say diversity in the sense of, how we think diversity, but a lot of different opinions and insights. Everybody has a different personality. So I can sometimes match my guests with certain co-hosts that I think are just going to resonate. And they all bring something different, and they, I kind of pair them up with each other. Sometimes they're with the same person. Sometimes they fill them for somebody else. And it's pretty amazing for the number that I have, that I can just seamlessly not worry about it. I mean, I can plug anybody into any show, and I know it's going to be great. So it's turned into I love it. I love seeing every week, what comes out of their mouth, and, what direction they take it. And they have no direction for me. I basically say, here's the guest, here's what they do, you take and run with it, because it's your show now. So it's a different perspective on podcasting. It's a kind of a different way of doing it. But, now that I've done it, I don't think I'd want to do it any other way.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it's been going for years and years and years. And you are definitely the voice of WooCommerce without a doubt. And I know that I don't know what the big plans are, but I know that you've got some interesting plans for the near future. We'll maybe get onto that towards the end when we talk about the other geographical big plan. But
Bob,
yeah, thank you.
Can I just say that Bob pulls in the best guests too, and like these conversations that as a host, like I get to ask. We just had a conversation with John Maida, and it was an amazing conversation on Woo Visions. And so Bob makes this like he has this ability of like pulling in all of these people together and just like watches the magic happen. I don't even know if he knows exactly that he's doing it, but his power of bringing people together has made some really fascinating conversations. So I'm just like really happy and excited and blessed to be a part of it, because I get to have these fun conversations with people I would have never talked to otherwise. So it's really fun.
Oh, that's really nice. I detect Bob's gone a tiny bit crimson.
It's a light change. No, I'm just
that's what it is. No, I've got the Photoshop filter here. Oh no, but that's nice though. It's nice to have been doing what you've been doing for such a long time, and to get nice feedback from people.
Yeah, I must say, as a guest,
give some time.
Yeah. As a guest, it was a really very comfortable way to do it. And I think we did it about a month ago. So, I kind of have a few Gutenberg talks there, discussions there. So it's a great show also for a guest. So I would come on anytime, but of course, there are hundreds of others good, brilliant people out there. Not that I'm brilliant; I'm just a cheerleader of all those that build Gutenberg. But it's a great show, and any of that, be it more technical, be it the more visionary, it's so different levels of looking at things, and it's really a great way to let the community talk about things and come together. Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
So. Indeed. Thank you, Bob. So if you're curious, you could obviously Google Do the Woo. Otherwise, you could go to Do the Woo, which is DOTHEWOO.io. And if you've dabbling any dalliances with WooCommerce, or just freelancing, developing, whatever, as it says on the screen, connecting WooCommerce products and site builders, developers, freelancers, and agencies, go and check it out. Listen to the podcast, and obviously, this was all prompted by the whole Woo Sesh thing, so maybe get yourself signed up for that. That is at woosesh.com, online event, 100% free. Although feel free to give me $799. I'll happily take it. Okay, right. Okay, this is an interesting one, and forgive me. This one is a little bit about me, and I don't wish it to be about me, but it was a curious journey that I went under this week. I did a podcast episode at WordCamp US. I recorded a chap called Joe Dolson. And Joe, if you don't know Joe is an accessibility. I'm going to use the word expert. I don't know if he would apply that to himself, but I'm going to say he is an expert with accessibility. Okay. And we did the podcast episode, and in my normal way, I edited it down and put it live and everything. And blow me, as soon as I'd published the episode, there was a few people on Twitter sort of saying, look, Nathan, it's lovely that you've done a podcast episode about accessibility, but that transcript that you've got there, people with accessibility needs can't really find it as easily as you would like them to. And so what happened after that? I just want to very quickly run this story by. Basically, what happened is a ton of people emerged and helped me, shepherded me through what I was doing wrong, and helped me, enabled me in the space of less than an hour to fix it to the point where it's good enough. It's definitely not perfect. And if anybody is got developer chops and they want to, for some reason, develop a transcript button for a website with all of the ARIA labels, feel free to reach out to me, because I can put you in touch with all the people who can help you with that. But it was just the fact that from this episode, a load of people told me that I'd done something wrong and then helped me to fix it in a really, really encouraging, nice way. There was none of this sort of like shouting at me or, getting on their high horse. It was just, look, Nathan, you know what? You've got a podcast about accessibility. How about you try this? Because it would be really helpful. I won't tell you all of the people in the background that gave me some tips and tricks, but I was able to fix something very, very quickly. So the point of that is for me to just say once again, as I often say, fabulous community we are in. We're very, very lucky. if you curate it and and you're hanging out with the people that are nice towards you, fabulous, because that's the experience I'm having. I hope it's the same for everybody else. So I suspect nobody's got anything to say about that. But episode 44 of the WP Tavern podcast is all about Joe Dolson telling me how to fix most of the 6 most common WCAG errors on your website. And turns out that I was able to fix one of them with a wonky implementation of the transcript that I've got, which you can see is right at the top here. It used to lurk right down at the bottom with a tiny font size 14. And what I learned was that basically for somebody with for example, with assistive technology, this podcast player, if you're trying to read this needs to have equal weight as this. And I didn't really know that. I kind of thought that it being at the bottom of the text would be good. So essentially putting it at the top, this is the transcript you can see there. Putting it at the top enables people to find it immediately rather than have to sort of search and then right at the bottom, finally the thing that I was looking for, the transcript. This is a block, and it's called what is it called? It's not a core one. It is called, I've forgotten, custom details block or something like that. So it's not perfect. It basically drops in an accordion. So if anybody has any helpful advice about how I could get a button accessibly to display a transcript, that would be very, very helpful. Right. Sorry. Rant over. Over to you. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything about
Nathan, that. I just like to point out that's a perfect example. What you did is when people came to you, instead of getting on the defensive, you accepted it. And that's what, I think a lot of people can learn from, is that there's a lot of people willing to help. You don't just go, hey, back off. And I never see Nathan say back off, but
hey, Bob, back off. Come on.
Yeah, well, you say it to me all the time, but
just
I mean, to
stop
other
with
people,
the compliments.
Yeah. But you did it the right way, and I think a lot of people get, oh yeah, right, yeah. Why did you have to tell me that? They get very defensive, and they'll right away things go south. And you took it as constructive criticism and said, let's deal with this. And people said, yeah, we'll help you. So that's cool.
I feel, now that you've said that, I feel I framed what I was trying to say in the wrong way, because I wasn't trying to, this is going to sound awful. I wasn't trying to make it about me. I genuinely was trying to say that I did something wrong and then people helped me. And I was really grateful for the help. So, but that was very kind of you. Thank you. Okay, shall we move on? Okay, from one accessibility thing to another. It is the, where's it gone? Where's the button? There we go. 2022, which is the latest default WordPress theme. It is a block-based theme, so you have to go and explore all the goodness in there. It is the first default WordPress theme, and I say default WordPress theme. It's not the first WordPress theme. So it's the first one that comes packaged with WordPress, which has reached a certain standard. And the standard that it's met is the WCAG AA level accessibility requirements standards. And so it has been tagged accessibility ready. I don't think anybody's trying to say here, the job is done. This theme does all the things and all the things are done perfectly. I think what they're trying to say is, okay, there's a barrier to AA, and we've got over that barrier, and for now, that's where we've got to. But an important milestone, having a default theme which everybody can use, achieve that is really good. By pure coincidence, Joe is mentioned. Joe, obviously, Sarah Gooding in this article, she went out and spoke to Joe. So there's a bit of a 1-2 punch there on the tavern this week. And I just thought that was really nice. There's obviously, like I said, quite a bit to do, and there's some bits and pieces which Joe outlines which still need to be done, but very nice to have this in the arsenal of WordPress defaults.
Definitely,
I'm definitely going to.
Yeah, there's that's also the one of the 3 block themes that actually have that label. There are 2 more. One is from Carolina Niemark, and the other one I forgot. And big shout out to Joe Dodson. He has for quite a few years been the team rep on the WordPress accessibility team, and has done some great work there, especially also with testing Gutenberg and the block editor over and over again. and the team is now working on a automatic testing for block changes, because that's always the hurdle. Yeah, Gutenberg, the plugin, releases every 2 weeks, and yeah, it's really hard to keep up for anybody, especially when blocks change their markup and all that. Is it still accessible, or has there some regression taken place? And it's a completely team effort. And Joe was on that team. I think he still is, but then there's also Joe Simpson and Alex Stein did some great work. He also had an accessibility workshop on WordCamp US. So there is, in the background, as you say, there's quite a few things going on to make WordPress more accessible or better accessible. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that you mentioned it's on the screen. Jace theme. Jace
By
by theme
Carolina
team.
Niemark, yeah.
Yeah, by Carolina Niemark. It does say the theme team, so I don't know if there were other people involved or if it was just Carolina, but there's that. But it would appear that in the repository now there are 94 themes which are tagged as accessibility ready, and obviously,
Yeah.
your success may vary. It may be that one has more features than others, but anyway, there we go. Bob or Kathy, anything to add?
I don't have anything. I just think it's so important for things to be accessibly ready. I mean, a lot of the enterprise customers that I talk to they have to, I mean, the legal ramifications of not having an accessible site, they have to put attention on that. So with WordPress putting a high premium on accessibility, everybody has to start thinking about this. There's just too many risks if we don't. So it's great that we're doing it.
One of the things that I got into with the podcast that I did with Joe, where he tackles the 6 things that you can fix quickly, was we got into the whole idea of sort of ambulance chasers. That's the term we have in the UK. And it basically means people who hire lawyers and go looking for an accident that they can then, sue people for. And Joe was pretty clear on this. He said, whilst it's maybe not such a thing at the moment, the laws are coming in, the accessibility guidelines are becoming more solid, and the tripwires are there, and you can automate to spot the tripwires. And so in the same way that Getty Images have been able to come after you with literally no work, they just send a bot out onto the internet, it finds your website, it knows that you've not paid for that image, and it automatically sends you some sort of lawyer problem in the mail. I think Joe is convinced that is going to start beginning, and if you can prove that you've begun this work, and the 6 things which you can fix that he highlights in the podcast are actually fairly straightforward, then you maybe have legs to stand on. But yeah.
Well, the theme is only the first step. The biggest hurdles are coming from the content creators that need to be a little bit more trained in terms of how is a link to be read. Yeah, it was quite hilarious, if it wasn't so sad, when Alex Stein in the workshop and the WordCamp US kind of had the screen reader going over the microphone and just reading out the links. It's kind of click here, click here, click here, click here. Yeah, the reader, or the listener who listens to the screen reader has no clue where to go if it doesn't have the label in there. Yeah, so it sounds little, but it's something really very important. And content creators are really the bridge to that. Yeah, and there is actually, because day in and day out they putting their information out, and the same with alt text on pictures, or when to put an alt text and when not. That's content creators. That's not something a theme can do for you. Yeah, so there's definitely a great educational gap there sometimes. And I saw a statistic where and I'm probably get the numbers wrong, but it was something like 2/3 of commercial websites are not accessible to the extent it should be. And that is definitely a gap that even all the accessibility advocates and those on the edge of it really have more work to do to get it better.
When
Okay. Sorry, you carry on, Kathy.
I just have one more comment. My husband had a stroke last year, and I started trying to set up all of the devices, the iPad, everything, so that he could use them with half of his body. And somebody said to me that everyone is one terrible event away from accessibility being the most important thing in their life. So I just wanted to add that for a little bit of context so that we as content creators and developers realize that, we're all just one horrible event away from accessibility being maybe even life challenging. So
I don't mean to pry, Kathy, and I don't want to go into the details, but was it revealing? When you set these
it's
devices up,
frustrating.
okay,
It's
okay,
frustrating.
right.
And I may have given up a little bit because it was just so frustrating. And then also just some, cognitive issues that he was going through that are getting better now. But at the time it was just like, oh my gosh, accessibility just as a whole has a long way to go in order for it to be truly accessible for everyone. So
One of the curious things is that I talked to Joe about as well was the whole idea of who's responsible. So, as an example, if you're an agency owner and you are handing over sites because you build them for clients, but you don't really have this on your radar, there's this sort of grey area, and we don't quite know yet. But Joe made the point that, well, if you'd paid for a website and you hadn't really got in the contract, that you hadn't really got into the thick of the whole, well, it needs to be accessible to this point, and links need to be displayed in this way, and the font size needs to have this contrast, and blah blah blah. He was saying, well, as a client, you would fully feel that you could go back to your developer and say, well, it's on you. You built it. You're responsible. You are the website builder. So that's just another piece to add into the puzzle. Even if it's not a property that you necessarily own and run, like Bob with Do the Woo and so on, it may very well be that your clients are going to come to you and say, well, you built it. You are the person. They may countersue or what have you. Of course, the other flip side, and I don't mean this to come out the way it comes out because it's going to sound like you're chasing money here, but I guess there is a flip side in that you can go to clients who've got websites that were built many, many years ago where accessibility was probably not on many people's radar, and there might be some additional things that you can work with your clients. So that might be a mutual benefit. Okay, righty-ho. All right, next one. Yeah. Maya says, yes, a step away, indeed. Oh, and she's included a love heart. Oh, that's nice. Okay, right. The next piece is all about WordPress's continued dominance. I confess I've never come across this before. It's the Web Almanac by the HTTP archive. And it's one of these studies which goes into a boatload of detail. And look who it's written by. It's written by Bob's friend Jonathan Wold, reviewed by Alex Denning and Dan Kraus and Alon Kochba. I don't know how to pronounce that. Various other. I confess I've not come across it before, and it's a great big detailed study about CMS adoption. The long and the short is this: the CMSs continue to dominate, and they continue to be the way that a growing proportion of the internet choose to build their sites. Now, not any one CMS in particular we're talking about yet, just the idea that if you want a website built, you're probably more and more as the years go by, you're going to have some kind of software behind it, some CMS software. It doesn't really seem to matter if you're looking on the screen. It doesn't seem to matter more or less where you are. It's in around the sort of high 35% of websites are built with some kind of CMS. It does vary by country, but the graph doesn't really illustrate much about that. And the chart that, of course, we like to see is this one. And on the screen at the minute, we've seen charts like this before. We see the WordPress chart is extremely big. In 2020, it was just I don't know, maybe 32%. 2021, maybe approaching 34%. And now 35%. I don't know. I was more used to talking in terms of the 40%. This has a little caveat. It says mobile on the top, so there might be a difference there. But also I know that Alexa, not the Amazon speaker thing, but the company that used to gather data, I know that that's now been pulled out. They've stopped providing that kind of data, so maybe that does something. WordPress dominates massively. You can see Joomla, Drupal, Wix, and Squarespace have tiny little lines in comparison. So we get to be all smug and happy for a moment until we see this chart, which is slightly less. This is not quite so great. This is, I can't make it go smaller. There we go. Core Web Vitals performance per CMS. And it would appear that in this case, rival CMSs outdo WordPress. Now, this could be for a whole bunch of reasons, couldn't it? I mean, plugins, themes, hosting, but still,
Images.
it's a bit. What was that? Sorry.
Images.
Images, yeah. I mean, but it is still a little bit concerning to see that WordPress basically at the bottom of the pile on this chart, rather than dominating. WordPress seems to be struggling. So there we go. We get to be happy. We get to be sad. It's the carousel of life. I don't know if anybody.
I can't tell you how many people, like just in the last couple of weeks, have come like gleeing at us in the Cadence Facebook group that they're getting like 100% scores on the measurement tests for Core Web Vitals and all of that using Cadence. So there's a lot. I mean, and you can make a site that's really super slow with Cadence as well, that fails everything. It really, that comes down to how it's being implemented. Now, are there things on some of these other CMSs that help people make better decisions with like compressing images and page size types of decisions, design decisions, that types of things that we could bring into WordPress? I don't know. I'd have to look at that further. But to me, this is how, just because you have a hammer doesn't mean you're going to nail properly, or like that you should be using a hammer with screws. You know, the tool and how the tool is used plays into that, I think, more.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think okay, so I'm completely guessing here. I think the fact that a typical WordPress website has many more plugins, let's say, than it maybe needs to have if you were able to spend more time cultivating your knowledge about WordPress and plugins and so on. Maybe that's got a part in it. I don't know, but 60,000 plus plugins in the WordPress repository, it's easy to get carried away.
Yeah, there's also, if you scroll up a little bit to the top page builders.
Let me just put oh yeah, I missed that out. Let me come back to that because that's quite interesting.
They're kind of, some of the performance issues come from the third-party page builders, especially sometimes the Elementor, sometimes the WP Bakery, and they have a very high percentage on the sites as well. Yeah, so 43% and 33% that are using those two page builders. So I think that's also where some of the performance issues come from.
I don't know if Jonathan is watching this, or if Bob can get Jonathan to comment at some point. Not today. I mean, I'd be interested to hear his commentary. I wonder about this chart because Elementor. So in order, it goes like this: Elementor. So this is top 5 page builders: Elementor, WP Bakery, Divi, Site Origin Page Builder, and Oxygen. That's curious to me that there's a few of the ones that I would have thought would have been on that list. Are not, the likes of Beaver Builder and things like that. And I wonder if that's just they've picked a random selection to demonstrate something on the chart there as it flows. But I'm quite interested. I run a summit with Anshin LaRue called the Page Builder Summit, and so we concentrate quite a lot on page builders, and we throw Gutenberg into that same umbrella. And a lot of the people that come and do presentations are talking about different ones than you see there. So yeah. Bob, anything on that?
God, I love these. And I'm being very sarcastic. It's what I find interesting is, as much as I'd like to know what's behind this, it seems these things, all we do is second guess why something is way. And, unless there's a really in-depth, they go into maybe there's or something like that. But yeah, I absolutely, every time I see some kind of graph with WordPress on it, like you said, I can cheer a little bit, I can weep a little bit, and then, it's over or whatever. But yeah, it's a deep void. It's hard to wrap your brain around a lot of times.
Let's see what Anne's got to say. Hello, Anne. It's probably also caused by everything that has page building capabilities, which can be compared to Swiss Army knives. She also carries on. You can cut a nice wooden statue with it, but you can also cut off your fingers, and people don't notice until it hurts. That's a great comment. I love that. And then Peter says, "Thank you, Anne." Peter says, keep in mind how many WordPress websites versus other CMSs are DIYers, bloggers, etc., who aren't applying or even aware of optimization vitals. Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm imagining a significant proportion of the WordPress user base is just doing ordinary blogging, logging in, writing some text, sharing their universe and clicking publish. And they're not too bothered about all of these bits and pieces, and they're quite happy to upload the gigantic 12K image with tartan on it. I don't know why I said tartan. I was searching around for a word and tartan came out. It's very easy to oversimplify stats and numbers. Yes, indeed. And I feel like I did an incredibly good job of oversimplifying things there. So on that bombshell, we'll move on quickly. Let's talk about this. So Lawrence Ladomery reached out to me in an email this week or last week, and he wanted me to mention a project that he's working on. By the way, if anybody else wants to email me like Lawrence did because they've got a new project, that's great. You can do that. And he wants me to mention his new WP Biz Dev website. You can see, if you're looking at the screen, it says marketing and sales jobs for WordPress businesses. So it's basically a jobs board. You've seen this kind of thing again before. There's a little twist to it. It says full and part-time roles, contracts, consultancies, and projects to help WordPress businesses grow. But you can see right at the top, really, this is not the typical, a React developer or somebody writing a plugin for somebody else. This is purely on the marketing and sales side of the WordPress ecosystem. So that's quite nice. And he says listings are going to be always free for businesses up to 3 people. So the sounds from that, I don't know if he's introduced a paid tier yet, but if you've got a business and there's less than 4 of you, up to 3 of you working in that business, and you're looking for a sales rep or a marketing person, then maybe WP BizDev will be able to help you out. They've got a fair few already. He's obviously managed to get his tendrils out there and get people recognizing it. So that's really good. Okay. Right. I think this is going to be the big one for the rest of the day. We've got a few other bits to cover, but okay. Came across this week, and I read an email from, I've forgotten. There's an organization. I can't even remember what the organization's called now, but essentially there's an online organization which is trying to put morals, if you like, into the internet. And I don't mean a particular set of morals, like, some sort of Anglo-Catholic kind of moral or anything like that. This is just trying to make it so that the world is equitable and fair. And they mentioned something this week which I thought was really curious, and it's this. It's called the California ADC. What does ADC stand for? It's gone out of my head. It's the California Age Appropriate Design Code. And being ignorant of how things get passed into law in America, I don't know what stage of the journey this is on, whether it's on the books to become law, whether it will have no chance of becoming law, no idea. But I kind of like the idea. And the idea here is that we've got young people. Many of them are using the internet. Many of them are using the internet in an unsupervised way. It might be that they are more technologically capable, for example, than their parents. And so, the parents buy them the technology, let's say, as a Christmas gift or something like that. And there's no firewall set up. There's no age restrictions set up. And sure, if you're in the sort of teenage years, maybe you're going to be thinking, get off my back, Dad, leave me alone. I can carry on with my life. But what about the little ones? And so it's really proposing a law where the tech companies bear responsibility for the content that is on their platforms. So that's enshrined in law. And I know that in the UK, we've had a few cases recently where some tragic events have occurred by people viewing content online that really, honestly, I think even a super libertarian would struggle to see the benefit in the content that these people were looking at, given the consequences that happened. I won't go into that, but you can look it up for yourself if you want. And I just thought this was a curious thing. It sounds a bit like nanny state, but then on the other hand, it kind of sounds like maybe we need a bit of this stuff. Maybe we haven't got enough regulation on the internet. Oh dear, did I just say those words? What do you guys think? And the
Well, I
answer is
think it's
not a lot.
pretty much like I think the internet is kind of lacking behind in some of the regulations. Well, we started with movie regulations, right? PG-13 and rated R and all that. And I think the internet needs to have a similar way to do this. I don't know if California is going overboard with it or if Europe is going overboard with privacy. Yeah, that's also part of it. But I think if we kind of think about that, we all need to live together on that, and that what keeps us to going back to the caves and hit us over the head with a 2x4 or something like that. All laws and all some kind of regulation that keep us a little bit in check when we have crazy ideas about how we treat other people. So I'm good. I like it. Yeah.
Bob, Kathy?
I like it too. There's a joke in America because California is they can push the envelope, so to speak, with their laws. And so like there's a lot of things in the United States that you'll see a tag on it that says this contains substances that are known in the state of California to cause cancer. And we joke, well, it's a good thing we're not in California, otherwise this would cause cancer, because because California just kind of pushes it, right? Like this has a carcinogen, it needs to be labeled as such. And so they put these tags on there because California is the only one that's really pushing for consumer protection in that case. I think that there's issues with algorithms. YouTube had an issue not too long ago where there were content creators that were making content aimed for children that was, spurious at best. It was not good content for children, but it was aimed, it was like the characters from Frozen doing things that, you might see with an R rating on it, types of things that, grown-ups aren't going to watch. And so YouTube took the bull by the horns. And if every time you post a video to YouTube, you have to say, is this intended for children or not? And so they did that on their own because of the outcry. Do we need legislators to do this, or can that come from parents? I think, looking at this website, there's a lot of different organizations that are saying, yeah, this is a good idea. There's some issues here. And I think, people's standards combined with algorithms can be a messy situation when it comes to our kids. And so being more conscious and intentional about what our children are watching makes a lot of sense.
Bob?
Boy, it's a rabbit hole. It's I agree with Kathy. There's a lot of gray area and a lot of people that don't really care what their kids, it's, who controls what, I think it's a great idea. I think there's a lot of content and creators and businesses that would be totally screwed if this got into place, which is probably good, or at least they would, revisit what they're putting out. But yeah, I think it's got to go in some direction like this. What that is, I'd hate to be on that particular team or that decision making to really, where do we draw the line here? But it's going to be, it's like Kathy said, it's a hot mess.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
It says on the website, every day children are using a digital world that is designed by and for adults. So far, I agree with everything. It definitely isn't designed by children. And I would say that on the whole, most of the platforms are not designed to be consumed by children, but they are being used by children. And this is the thing where they, being children, are nudged to give up their privacy, offered harmful material, and exposed to risky contacts and behaviors. Now, the sort of curious thing from my perspective is that none of this stuff was none of this stuff I needed to think about. That is to say, my parents didn't need to think about this for me, because basically there was the television, there was the radio, and there was the telephone. The television was, there was a selection of just a few channels, and it was heavily edited, and it was bound in time when certain types of content could happen. We have this notion of the watershed, and I believe it was like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. And you could be absolutely sure that a different type of content would hit the airwaves after that. So basically, if you didn't want your kids to consume that, you'd send them to bed or turn the telly off before that time. You could field who was coming through the telephone. The radio was the same as the TV. Basically, our front door was the barrier to everything. Nothing could enter my life. Almost nothing could enter my life that didn't pass through the front door. Now, everything can get past the front door directly into your sons and daughters and infants' bedrooms, and nobody saw this stuff coming. There was nobody sitting there thinking 20 years ago when Tim Berners-Lee was sitting there thinking, do you know what? I reckon the internet's going to be really harmful. I'm not so sure about this idea. These hyperlinks, there's trouble afoot here. But it's kind of crept up on us, hasn't it? It's crept up, and slowly but surely, we've let certain things happen. And I don't know. I guess the people behind this website are thinking, we've gone too far. We need to just rein it back in again. Like Bob, do I want to be the person in charge of that debate? No. There's no way. It's going to be so hard, because people are going to come from all angles, aren't they? No, we need freedom for everything. And there's going to be the other side. No, we need freedom for almost nothing. Should we talk about it, though? Please, can we talk about it? I just don't think some of this stuff should be allowed, or at least it's not sensible by default. Yeah. There we go. I've had my rant, my weekly rant. Yeah. Let's move on. Let's move on to something which Kathy can tell us all about, because Kathy's been talking about cadence a little bit, and she's going to be training us a little bit in how to use cadence. I confess I don't know much about this, Kathy. She sent me the link a little while ago, and just tell us what you're putting on here, Kathy. It's you, right? It's you doing this.
No, it's not me. It's actually going to be Ben Rittner, the founder and creator of Cadence, the guy who was smart enough to say, hey, Gutenberg's going to be huge, when it was still just a mere plugin and not even in core, and started developing for it. Very, very visionary developer, doing tons of great things. This course, it says developer course, but it's really, people say developer and they think you have to code. And this is really for just anybody who is getting into doing more advanced things, sort of a power user with Cadence. It's going to be only open to people who are a part of the iThemes training or people who are Cadence customers. So you have to have at least one of the bundles or even an a la carte plugin to participate in it. But it's going to be a great training. Basically, if you get to spend 2 days listening to Ben tell you all the tips and tricks to get more out of Cadence, it's a gift. Nice. So, so I think it's gonna be pretty exciting. End of the month, October 25th and 26th, just for a couple of hours each day. But if you're using Cadence, it's a great way to dive deeper and get more out of the tools you spent money on.
Okay, so you need to have a product of some kind in order to get in behind the training wall, if you like. Yeah.
But it's definitely worth it, and there's so many more people. Cadence is just kind of on fire right now. We're getting so many new people coming into the ecosystem. So the more that we can do to help people be successful, hey, I'm here for that. So
is iThemes training, is it tightly bound to Cadence, or does it do their security stuff and their backup stuff as well?
Well, yeah, iThemes has been around forever and a day. So iThemes is part of Stellar, and Cadence is part of Stellar, and Cadence and iThemes the teams are work together a lot. I'm director of marketing now for both iThemes and Cadence. So I get to do things like this with Nathan Ingram too, who's just an amazing human and co-host for all of this. It's just it's all Stellar stuff. So you'll see there's a gift training that we're doing, but this one is really cool. And I just wanted to highlight it because it's really going to help
Sure, thank you. So I'll put the link in the show notes, but basically if you go and search for Cadence Developer Course 2022, I'm guessing that you'll get that as the number one result. It's over at training.ithemes.com. Right, Kathy, you're on a roll. We mentioned this last week, but we're going to mention it again because there was nobody on the show who was directly involved. I just briefly said that it was a thing, but let's talk about it a little bit more in depth. You've got a couple of episodes out. So this is WP Motivate. It's your new podcast with Michelle Frechette, who, as everybody knows, is on like fire. Matt Mullenweg I've got to get the wording right. Say she's the busiest, most hardworking woman in WordPress or something like that.
Yeah, the busiest woman in WordPress.
Busiest, we'll go with that. Yeah. You've started a new podcast, and you're a couple of episodes in, is my understanding. Yeah, you got the first episode 25th of September, second episode 3rd of today. Check it out. The 3rd of October. Finding inspiration in the compost. So everybody's starting podcasts. Everybody loves podcasts and all that kind of stuff. What's the difference? What's the UVP for WP Motivate? I think it's part of the timing, what day of the week it's on and things like that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's your Monday motivation. It's basically, well, this was Michelle's like, hey, do you want to do a project? I'm like, yes, what? Before I knew what she wanted to do, any opportunity to work with Michelle. I mean, you guys all know her. She's just an amazing human being who does great things for the community. And she's like, this is my idea. And I'm like, this is my alley, because I'm all about empowering people and helping people do more with WordPress, do more in life. Know that nothing is beyond your capability of doing something. If you have a dream, go do it. And so this was kind of right up my alley. So this morning's episode was all about, last week was kind of hard. Last week was, a lot of people feeling a little bit of stress. And so, but it ended on a very good note. And so we felt that whenever there is shit, there is compost, and you can grow something out of that, which, there are some shit shows around that are growing some amazing things.
There are, aren't there, Bob? There really are. That's another thing altogether. Yeah, you had the hurricane, of course, and we had the government. So don't get into that, Nathan. There's a whole minefield there. So the idea is a little one. That is to say, it's a short podcast, right? Just doing like little 10, 15-minute episodes, and you wake up and it's just going to sort of like boost you and regenerate you. But it's called WP Motivate. Are you working on WordPress content, or is it like a bigger canvas than that?
We're just going to be talking wherever's inspiring us at the time. We'll talk about that, but it's definitely things that are cropping up within the WordPress community and sort of our hot takes on how to sort of reframe things in a very positive way and have a good perspective about what we're all here to do. And you get to see me and Michelle. So we're on YouTube, but we also have the audio. But it's just basically just something to help you keep a perspective, so that when you're going into Monday and it's like 5 days of what, that you find some positivity and all of that, because life's too short to not, right? Even in the midst of it's been a hard year for me. It's been a hard year for Michelle. My husband had a stroke, her dad passed away, and we've both gone through a lot, but you know what? We're coming out of it like flowers growing in compost, if you know what I mean. We're doing okay.
I like it. Yeah, I like it. Can I ask, because I haven't seen one yet or heard one, do you do it live and then put it out as an episode later, or do you pre-record and then
we pre-record. Yeah, we pre-record on Friday when we're flying high.
And what time?
So that we're going into Monday.
That's what time do you put it out? Like, would it be like when I wake up in the UK, would it be available at that point, or do I have to wait until the afternoon?
That's what we're aiming for, so that you get to wake up with it too in the UK, that Europe gets to wake up with a little dose of Monday motivation from us. So
we usually have Cameron in the comments, and Cameron's from Australia. And so the morning for Cameron is certainly different from the morning for, Bob, as it is at the moment. Okay, so I don't know if Birgit and Bob have got anything to add to this, but it's nice to have a new thing to listen to. WP Motivate, spelled as you'd imagine, no spaces or underscores or anything like that. .com.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Yeah, it comes from Michelle and from Kathy. Yeah, it's definitely worth listening to. And yeah.
I love the fact that it's the least friction piece of media in the world, in that you literally type into your podcast player on your phone, WP Motivate. I mean, maybe it'll take a week or two for it to get found in search for that exact term. But once it's there, you click subscribe or follow or whatever your players. And from that moment on, you're in. It's just such a great medium. I absolutely love it. And you've got sponsorship options I can see on the website as well. So if you're interested in making sure the show can keep going, have a look on the menu at the top. There's a sponsor us section, and you can explore that as well. Anything to add, Bob, or shall I move on?
No, it's great. Love the two hosts, and what can I say? If they can motivate me, I haven't listened to one yet, but if they can motivate me, I think they've hit a gold mine. That would be it. So I'm going to test the waters.
Speaking of motivating Bob, I tell you what motivates Bob. Portugal motivates Bob. Somewhat unexpectedly, Bob decided that Portugal was where he wanted to live. I say that facetiously. I don't know. Maybe you'd been dreaming this dream for ages. But this week, everything got a little step closer. First of all, Bob, tell us about your life and why you decided to go live in Portugal.
Well, I think everybody knows this one, but
okay.
But yeah, it basically just, I could keep it as simple as we went to WordCamp Europe. My wife and I, of course, she didn't go to the actual WordCamp, but we fell in love with Porto, and it just seemed to be the time. There's a lot of decision making in the background, but I think we just felt that there was something about the whole experience there that said, okay, it's time to make a switch. It's time to go to a different culture, assimilate ourselves in it, and learn new things. And so, we've been progressing towards that. I started a blog where I talk about it. I think I have maybe 2 readers, but it's something that I can just spiel out what our experiences are. It's actually a fun blog. It kind of reminds me of the old days of journaling on a blog. When we didn't really care about audience or anything. We just decided to write. So we went to San Francisco last week. This was our step to actually deliver our visa application. You have to do this in person. It's not like you're getting it approved. They go through it, spend about an hour making sure you have everything, all your, I's crossed and T's dotted and all that stuff, and have the right paperwork. But the whole trip was really, it was very a windfall type thing where we just, left Monday morning, came back Tuesday evening. So we didn't really do touristy stuff while we were there. And it just, everything fell into place really nice those 2 days. So it's like, I felt like, okay, this must be a sign, because of course we have to wait for a decision to be made over the next 2 to 3 months if we're lucky. But we right away we started out with a flight that was overbooked. We got there early enough, and they offered anybody that wanted to wait 4 more hours $600 each, and it wasn't a voucher for flight. It was just a Visa card or American Express or whatever, like cash. And Judy said, well, let's do it. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to wait for me. I was being stupid, basically. And, it took me about 10 minutes, and we decided to do it. So then they gave us a voucher for lunch, and just met some cool people in San Francisco, a couple from UK. They didn't know Nathan, thank God. And then
that's unbelievable. Incredible.
And our bartender was from Bulgaria, had a fun conversation. He had very dry, sarcastic humor. He wanted us to take all our leftover food to Portugal and use it in a few months. I mean, it was just, everything was just very, like I said, it was synchronicity. It was like, wow, if all this good stuff happened before and after our appointment, then it must be a sign. At least I'm trying to be optimistic.
Yeah. It's very much self-motivational again. It's such a nice story. I got to say, I met Bob in Porto, and to be honest, Bob, I actually think that's the reason that you're going to look. You want to relive that moment where
it's just that much closer,
drink in the bar. That's right. Yeah.
And I think it's also a part of it is, part of it is a business, because now I'm going to be over in a different piece of the world where I'll be able to, in real life, kind of connect and meet with some of the people that I've known for years. And, I've been here in the US doing the WordPress stuff for a long time. So it's going to be nice to connect to those communities and be a little bit more accessible, as far as travel and stuff to some of the areas around there. So I think that's a plus on the business side. So, and you're not that far away, which is a plus. So,
I've just bought the domain name nathanmovestowashingtonstate.com.
Oh God.
Which is,
which is
apropos of nothing. I'm just saying. That's next year's drama. The day you land, basically, is no. Oh, that's such a nice story. Honestly, it's kind of kept my what we say warming the cockles in this country, and it basically means it gives you that warm, glowing feeling. How nice is it when you get the opportunity in life to sort of throw all the cards in the air and just see where they land? And sometimes that can be a very scary thing, can't it? But equally, the liberation of not knowing what tomorrow may or may not bring brings back some of that excitement that you had when you were a kid, when you turned over a rock and there was just something really boring as an adult, but the kids go, oh, look! It's a bit, it's that juvenile fun that you get to do again. You get to start over, Bob. I'm not jealous at all.
We're basically doing that. We're selling everything. We're taking just a few suitcases, and we had to let go of a few things that were sentimental. I mean, I was like ready to dump everything. Judy, had moments where she would have to talk to inanimate objects around the house and say goodbye to them. But it wasn't. But it's very refreshing just to get rid of stuff and think of just starting over that way. And, we're fortunate. A lot of people have said they've, oh, I'm jealous. I wish I could do this. This is what I would love to do. But we're in a position where we can do this very easily. There's a lot of things that people can't just do that as quickly. And Judy and I have always been that way. We don't plan years ahead. Like, 5 years ago, we were thinking, we should move to Europe. It's always been something we thought would be cool, but we hadn't really planned it. And something sits in our brain and we just don't turn back. And it's, however that ends in the results of that, we'll see. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, nice. So Bob's new post, you can find it over at portobobwp.com. portobobwp.com. I'll put that in the show notes as well, and you can find out about how Bob and his wife made $1,200 by standing for 4 hours, which is great. I wish I could do that every time I go to the airport. That'd be great. Okay, last couple of things just quickly before we end. We do these little non-WordPressy things at the end, and I've got a couple for this week. They may be of interest, they may not. First one is this thing. It's called radiopaper.com. I don't really know how to describe this. It's a bit like long form Twitter, but with one other person. Imagine email. Imagine your email was publicly available, which sounds horrific. It sounds like I'm never going there. But this is the point. You go deliberately to have a public conversation with other people. So it's a to and fro, back and forwards, and it just gets published. So it's a bit like a blogging platform, but where everything is live. And you can see some of the conversations that have been taking place. Some of them are very short. Some of them go into pages. You can just see what people are talking about. And I just thought this is a really curious idea. So that's radiopaper.com. And the other thing I wanted to mention, which is called penpot.app. And I know that the world, what is it? Chicken Little sky has been falling in because Adobe bought Figma. And everybody's panicking about what Figma will become, and whether it will become a very expensive Adobe property and all of that kind of stuff. So this came across my radar. It's called Penpot, and it's basically, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's going to do everything that Figma does, but it's a design tool. It's completely open source and therefore free. I don't know if they've got like a commercial installation which you can use with additional benefits. I'm not sure. But the key component is it does all of team collaboration stuff. So you can look at things in real time and share things with your colleagues and stuff like that. So it's called Penpot, and you can find it at penpot.app. I have the design chop of a potato, And so I've not used it. I mean, if I did use it, I'd probably draw a potato and think I'd been very successful. But I don't know, go and give it a test and see what you like. It looks like it's kind of like for UI and UX kind of stuff. It seems to be that's where they've got their stakes in the ground. But there we go. I'm done. Anybody else got anything they want to throw in just before we knock it on the head, as we say in the UK?
Yeah, well, I put something in the list.
Did
and
you? I
that's,
missed it. I'm so sorry. Where?
You missed it.
I know. I'm terrible. What kind of person am I?
Well,
Show me. Oh, I've just recycled the wrong. Oh, for goodness sake! Now I can't
it's
find the browser tab that it's in.
and it's on.
Where is it? Oh no, that's Bob. Where's your one?
No, it's
see
on
your
the
one.
building a block-based helper header template in classic themes.
Okay, let me see if I can find it. Sing amongst yourselves.
It's in the episode notes.
Let me look. Oh, I see it. Okay, hold on. I will open it in this here tab, and then I will open it over here. Perfect. Tell me about this. I'll get it on the screen.
It's so with the FSE and classic themes, there's always some people kind of had this this narrative that everything old becomes old and new is the new way to do, but it actually really planned to do an adoption from classic theme to more user-centric kind of thing. And this is the first piece that lets you build a block-based header or template part in a classic theme and how to do it. So the feature comes with WordPress 6.1, but it's already available in Gutenberg plugin 14.1. And Justin Tadlock did a really long tutorial in what is involved to actually make this work for classic theme. But there's nothing that a classic theme wouldn't be able to do. But it would enable the clients of that theme builder to modify a part of the template for the full site, like a header or a footer, and not have to call a developer to just add a link or something like that into the footer. So it's a way to use some of the features that are in the block theme, like the theme JSON that is now also available for classic themes since 5.9. Now it's the next building block is using block-based template parts in a classic theme. And so he does it with the example of 2021, which was the last classic theme, that default theme. And then also what quirks were there, like CSS quirks that he needed to update, and also how pattern could help with that, which are also part of can be used by classic themes. So it's a very in-depth way to do a gradual adoption of the new features that come to WordPress, but still do the classic theme approach. That's also interesting for bespoke, for agencies who do bespoke themes for their clients, and so to take a little bit of the new paradigm shift a bit into the classic themes.
Firstly, I'm sorry for missing that. I didn't see it, and I apologise. I should have looked more carefully. And secondly, I think it's fair to say that anything that Justin Tadlock puts his into is worth looking at. And so, as described by Birgit there, if you're interested in what feels like a bit of an overlap between a classic theme and the capabilities of a block-based theme, and how you can modify one with the other, then go and check it out. It's gutenbergtimes.com, and the article is called Building a Block-Based Header Template in a Classic Theme. And go and search for that. But I will put that into the show notes for today's episode.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And I'm sorry about that. Right, so it's that time of the day, that humiliating time of the day where everybody's got to raise their hands and look foolish. So we're going to all do this, if that's okay, and we'll wave and we'll wait. Ah, look, that was really quick. Thank you. Everybody managed to get their hands up at the same time. Firstly, sincerely, thank you for joining me, you three, today. That was a dead easy conversation, wasn't it? Some weeks are easier than others, and that was a really pleasant mix, and so I appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'll be back next week. I'm not entirely sure who will be on. I think it might be Mark Westgard. I'm not sure, but we'll have to cope with that. And we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for
All right.
anybody who wrote a
Thank-
comment. I appreciate it very much. Take it
Thanks
easy.
so much,
Bye.
Nathan, for having me.